Aloha, it's Antonio with Hypnosis Product Reviews. I'm here with Stephanie Conkle in Georgia. How you doing today?
I'm doing great.
So I'm actually on vacation here, and I remember that she lived in Georgia, so I decided to meet up with her and do a podcast.
Yeah, it was so interesting to find out that Pam, your long-term girlfriend, actually, her family's actually from Roswell, and we probably lived around the street from each other.
It's a good chance.
Yeah.
Good chance.
Growing up.
The one thing you can't see in the video, we were trying to do the interview just right, is her bookshelf over here with all sorts of amazing books on change work.
Oh, wait a minute. Maybe we could show them the books.
Here, let me see if I can do it.
We can tilt it.
You can probably see that. Oops, hopefully I didn't hit the record button. Yeah, some incredible books, which if she doesn't pay attention, I might have to swipe them.
I have all of my books, have pictures of every single book I have.
Okay.
They're well documented.
Now,
And no one's missing.
Okay, perfect. It's like
What's a little
It's like Kathy Bates from Misery.
For Misery, right?
Yeah. It was pointed due north. So something that so we've known each other for quite a few years, say at least 5 years. It's something I did a couple of years ago, which is kind of funny. I did a practical joke on April 1st where I had Michael Perez from England, or I think he lives in Belgium. I interviewed him on Skype as a joker. He was talking like Erickson. So we released this as a rare Erickson audio, and there was part of the audio where, if I remember correctly, it was like Erickson telling a story about tying a shoelace, or working with a client talking about tying a shoelace. And then I found out, if you want, you can lead into the funny part about this.
Yeah, definitely. So, okay, so I've been listening to Antonio's podcast, and around that same time, I had just really started getting into Milton Erickson, and I was just really getting into all of his works and whatever I could find online. It was really hard to find anything online at that time. I think you could find a lot more now than you could back then. And he starts this podcast out with, rare Erickson, not footage, but audio. Audio was discovered. Never heard before. So I thought, okay, this is cool. I will listen to this. It's really cool. So I'm starting to listen to this, and I don't know. I didn't know what Milton Erickson sounded like back then. I do now. But back then I didn't know what he sounded like. And it was making sense to me. I was like, wow, I really like his patter. It's great. So what happened was I had a client due to come in, and I was listening to this podcast, but I couldn't listen to the end of the podcast. So about midway through the recording, I had to pause it. And I just thought, hey, it would be like really cool to just use some of this pattern on this client. And this was a really tough client. This was her second session. I didn't feel like we made a whole lot of progress during the first session. So I didn't really feel as prepared as I should have. And I thought, well, what the heck? I'll just if you steal from the master, right? So I'm just going to use some of this exact pattern that he used, and I'll see how it does with my client. And it turns out that I was very confident using his pattern, and the session was phenomenal. The client had this major breakthrough. It was just wonderful. We just did this really wonderful healing session. I think she didn't even have to come back to me for another session. And I remember going home that night, and I told my husband what I had done, and I was just like so excited and so happy that it worked. And so he was congratulating me. So I thought, you know what? I have not finished listening to the recording. So after everyone went to bed that night, I decided I would listen to the rest of the recording, and then the rest of it, come to find out,
It was a practical joke.
It was an April Fool's Day joke. So I'm listening, and towards the end of the recording, I'm hearing Milton Erickson's voice start to change, and then I hear all of this giggling. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? And then they said, April Fools. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm so gullible. But it worked.
The funny thing is, and she didn't know this, I just told her that within 6 hours of releasing the quote-unquote rare Erickson audio, I got an email from Jeff Zieg, I believe it is, Zieg, and he was not happy. He basically, and I took it in stride because Erickson, from everything I know, loved practical jokes. So yeah, Jeffrey Zeig, if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, sorry. Actually, I don't think he'd be watching this podcast after the first one. He was definitely not happy, and like I said, I took it in stride. I'm like, hey, let's have fun. Now let's move on to some more relevant stuff, some newer.
But I just want to say from that, I think it was really the confidence
that gave you the confidence.
It gave me the confidence to do this pattern, and I think that's why the session was so good, because I thought I was using somebody else's technique or whatever, or pattern, but it was really all coming from myself, because I approached the client with absolute confidence and an absolute belief that this would work, and I think that's why it worked. I think that's how it took.
Oh, definitely.
So, yeah,
that was awesome.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, something I want to say. The first time I met you was 4 years ago, I believe, at HypnoThoughts Live. It would take maybe a minute to talk about it. HypnoThoughts Live. What are your views on it?
I loved it. I love HypnoThoughts Live. I'm not going to be able to be there this year, unfortunately, but if I could have, I would have been there.
We'll try to get her there, see if we can. But I've loved the conference. Met a lot of really awesome people. From what I've heard, other conferences can have a lot of egos. This one, you might get some egos here and there. Really laid back people.
So laid back. Everybody is so nice. It's not formal. People from amateur to the most professional hypnotists can come together and just learn from each other, and not feel like you're being criticized, but actually get help from other people.
What I like that the Hypnotic Women did a couple years ago was the flash mob.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
You know what I will do is
can't dance, but
here.
It was fun.
I can't dance. Put your hands up like this. We'll make a little box here. So if you look between this box right here, I'll have a. Video of the Hypnotic Women.
Cool.
Now, one thing I know that you're good at is, I believe, resistance. You did a talk on resistance. Was it the first year?
That was last year.
Was it last year?
Yeah.
Okay, I think it was resistant to come in. I might have been waking up late. Another thing you're good at is parts work. Is that something you want to talk about?
Yeah, parts therapy. Once I learned parts therapy, I mean, that just really, that was a game changer for me, basically. Once I really learned everything about it and how to do it correctly, I just kind of put my own spin on it, but that was definitely a game changer. And I went from being I wasn't a very confident hypnotist when I began. I was just sort of like, okay, I'm just gonna throw this dart and just see where it lands, and hopefully, hopefully everything is gonna go great. But I didn't like working that way. Now that I know parts therapy really well, I teach it. I learned it from Roy Hunter. So he's really the expert to talk to about the parts therapy. But I started using it before I even learned the proper way to do it. And in fact, I think Wendy Friesen first introduced me to parts therapy. That's the first time I heard about it. And I had listened to a recording of her using parts therapy, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. I still didn't really incorporate it into my work, but that's where I first heard about it. Then at the Dallas convention back in, I think it was 2011, I met John Clee-Saddle, and then he had this, it was a smoking cessation protocol.
It's awesome.
Called Meeting of the Minds. Which
manager meeting.
Oh, manager
I
meeting?
think it was a meeting.
I thought it was a Meeting of the Minds.
I could be wrong.
I could be wrong too. Okay. Something, but it used parts therapy in essence. I don't think he was calling it that. Later I sort of figured out, oh, this is what he's doing. I'm sorry for
interrupting, but
Yeah.
he made it a real simplified version, didn't he?
It was real simple. It was, it worked. It worked. And I didn't even understand why it worked at the time. I have a much better understanding of it now. And I even had to sort of simplify it down from the way he was doing his protocol. It's a wonderful protocol, and I encourage everybody to get it, especially if you have any trouble or if you don't have confidence doing smoking cessation. That's a great protocol to get to start with. So then I started sort of modifying that because I kind of felt like he called out too many parts, and I just wanted to simplify it down just to like maybe 2 or 3 parts to work with. And that's all I found that I needed. Everybody will have their own style of working with parts therapy. But
I like parts therapy. Have you ever tried using parts therapy on yourself, or do you find that being a little more difficult?
I can use it on myself, but when I use it on myself, I have to think of one part of me as being the hypnotherapist.
Oh, okay.
Right, and then try to stay in that frame of mind while the other parts come out. It's a little bit trickier. I've done it before, and it works okay.
Because we can be ourselves. We can, like I said, BS ourselves. It's a little bit easier.
Yeah, we were just saying that earlier.
You can put a smoke screen up. You're like, oh, that's not it. When it could very well be that.
Yeah. When I got Roy Hunter's book called Parts Therapy, that was sort of another game changer for me. It opened my eyes, and it just showed me a better way of doing it in a more efficient and practical way. And that's when I really got into parts therapy big time, and I got into and so Roy Hunter actually took this work from Charles Tebbets.
Yep.
So Charles Tebbets is the, I don't want to say, what do you call it, innovator?
It's maybe an innovator in his specific style.
Okay. And then I think before he died, he wanted to pass down his knowledge. He wanted somebody to teach his work. And so he passed that down to Roy Hunter, who took on that very graciously, very, very happily, and has been put his own spin on it. And that's what he, teaches, and has sort of passed it on to me, and now I teach it.
And I've heard great things about Roy. A couple of times I've tried to get training. I've tried to set up workshops out in Hawaii with him, but it's getting people to come out to Hawaii. I mean, everyone wants to go to Hawaii, but it's so expensive.
Yes.
I'm better off making a vacation and coming out to the mainland for stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Great guy.
What kind of any kind of particular projects you have coming up? Any kind of innovations or anything you want to see happen in the community?
I have some things that I'm working on, but I kind of want to keep it under the hat right now.
Keep it up.
I want to keep it on the DL.
Keep it under the hat.
For now, under the hat,
Yeah. Better,
so to speak.
Better I keep this on because of my hair.
Yeah, but right now it's summer and the kids are out of school, and I'm sort of focusing on them. But once school starts back, I've got some ideas that I want to get
It's those damn
launched.
kids. Those kids always get in the way.
Well, you know what? That's actually something I wanted to talk about too. Is sort of from where I came from when I started hypnosis, or when I started my hypnotherapy practice. So I'd always been interested in hypnosis since a little girl. My dad had gone to a hypnotist because he had severe insomnia, and the hypnotist, cure, I guess we can't use the word cure, but the hypnotist got rid of his insomnia. And so then he started practicing hypnosis on me, and I remember that as a child. And
so your dad started practicing on you as a...
Yeah, and he was just doing it for fun.
Yeah.
And I talked to him now about it. He says he doesn't even remember that. He said he doesn't even remember going to a hypnotist and being cured of the insomnia. So
do you remember that?
I remember it very clearly. I also remember watching a PBS program that had a hypnotist on it, who had some subjects, and he was explaining hypnosis and all that. So that kind of stuck with me.
Well, I'm going to do a quick interruption. I want to grab a book off the shelf. See if I can do that. This one, where is that? Parts Therapy, Ego State.
Oh, the ego state therapy.
Actually, I'll do this one. We're talking about how we got into hypnosis. I've mentioned this on my podcast many times. This book by Dave Ellman, Hypnotherapy. I still remember clear as day. I was at my great grandma's house in Michigan. I remember if I close my eyes, I can see a bookshelf here. I remember as a kid walking up and I see hypnotherapy. I've always been
Can you get that in the camera?
Yeah, I've always been a good reader. I remember walking up and looking at it going, just wondering, what's hypnosis, hypnotherapy? this is a book that got me into hypnosis. I was, I think, 6 years old, and I actually...
Wow, 6 years old. I didn't realize you were that young.
Yeah, and I remember...
A lot of people can't even read at 6 years old.
I've never read through this. Does it talk about like a fascination inductions in here?
Fascination inductions?
Or
I don't
like
think so.
fascination, or meaning like look at a spot. Long story short, I remember barely reading this when I was a kid, being super interested in it, and I remember going home and trying to hypnotize all my stuffed animals. And they're all somnambulists. They don't do anything.
Yeah, I guess they would be.
This book actually helped me. When I was a kid, I used to have a really bad, it was a nervous tic where I would kind of stretch my neck out like that, and I just did it all the time. I had a friend that used some of the concepts from here hypnotized me. I was probably in middle school, I can't remember, and it got rid of the neck tic. So
Awesome, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, this is pretty much what got me into hypnosis. Which I need to get a copy of this, and I think I just found my copy.
No, not my copy.
Is this one okay, this one isn't signed, but I did see the one you do have that is signed. Let's see, what else can we cover?
Oh, well, I was just going to sort of lead into that just real quick, just my backstory real quick, and because I think it's important for other women hypnotists. So then I don't think about hypnosis very much. I go to college. I have a boyfriend who goes to see a stage hypnotist. And I didn't go to the show. He hypnotizes all of our friends, okay, to do all these, crazy stuff. And my boyfriend comes back and he just gives me like a blow-by-blow synopsis of the show. Not a synopsis. He gives me a blow-by-blow. Like, he tells me everything that happened in the show. And I was just like so amazed by it. I was like, wow, the power of the brain is amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me. So that got me really fascinated in hypnosis again. I just wanted to start to know more about it. How does it work? That kind of thing. So I kind of started just reading about it. But again, just as a hobby, nothing... I didn't really think I would ever have a career in hypnotherapy. So I ended up actually going to film school. My bachelor's degree is in film and video. Got a little bit of work, but didn't get enough to pay the bills. So ended up having to go into corporate. And working corporate
yeah.
And working in that very soulless corporate
it's like you're
job.
a number, you're on the conveyor belts going around.
It was not a good situation for Stephanie to be in. And I remember being very depressed, working in corporate and just feeling very imprisoned. Okay, so then I ended up getting pregnant and I have the baby. I was going to go back. The plan was going to go back to work. But after having the baby, I decided, no, I need to stay at home and take care of the baby. So I became a stay-at-home mom, like a full-time stay-at-home mom, thinking, well, this will be great. I can take care of the baby. I don't have to, work under a crazy boss, and I can just be at home. And I thought that this was going to be amazing. And reality quickly set in after that.
Yeah.
I found myself spiraling into an even greater depression than I had already been in. And some of that could have been the postpartum stuff, but I felt chained to the house. I felt, because we only had one income coming in, we couldn't go out and do things.
I could see how that would definitely affect you. It almost seems like it's hard for me to come from this perspective. It's almost like your self-worth and everything would go down, in my perspective.
I didn't even know who I was at that point. Also because I think corporate had drilled it out of me that I couldn't be an individual, right?
Okay.
And so I was trying to find myself, and I was trying to, keep this little baby alive, which is, 24/7 vigilance. So I wasn't sleeping, and I started getting into self-help books because I wanted to know, what is going on with me.
You would go figure. You get somebody getting into hypnosis because they want to improve their life.
Right.
Guilty as charged.
Not only that, then something really weird happened to me too. I developed this really huge fear of flying after the baby was born. Now, I had flown all over the world beforehand. I mean, I had backpacked through Europe for a year on my own. So flying had never been a big deal to me until after I had this baby. I didn't know why. I had no idea why. But my husband's film got into the Cannes Film Festival, and so and there was like no way. I had been avoiding flying places, but there was no way I was not going to go to Cannes and walk the red carpet and all of that.
No kidding.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, I just need to go for this fear of flying. So that's how hypnosis came back around, and I just sought out anything that could help me get rid of the fear of flying, and which I didn't get rid of my fear at that time. I was able to get on the plane. I did find a recording that helped relax me.
Okay. So you weren't as nervous. You still had the underlying fear there.
I still had an underlying fear, but after, I think it was the Dallas convention, somebody did like a collapsing anchors on me, and that like worked immediately. And yeah,
Awesome.
No more fear of flying. It was very quick and very easy. It was so easy.
You know, I just think, I'm like, how can, when you find something that you would do for free, it's like if you love something so much and you would do it for free, like this is hypnosis for me, NLP. I look at it, and if I try to explain this to somebody else and they're not really interested, I'm like, how can you not be interested in this? Just because it's so damn interesting.
It's so fascinating. I mean, I just began just reading as much information as I could about hypnosis, NLP, hypnotherapy. I was just reading. And the more I read, the more I realized, like, hey, this is something I could actually do, because I guess I didn't have enough self-confidence before thinking that I could actually become a hypnotist and hypnotize people. I'm a little bit clumsy with my words sometimes. So I didn't think that it was something I could do until I just kept getting more and more and more fascinated with hypnosis.
You have to get into it.
Once I got into it, I realized, hey, not only can I do this, but I think I can really help a lot of people. And that was something I was also trying to figure out too, was my future career, because I knew I couldn't be a stay-at-home mom forever. That is for some people, but it wasn't for me. And I knew I couldn't go back into corporate. Whatever I did moving forward, I'd have to be my own boss, make all the creative decisions, but also help people, because the job that I came from before, I felt was very corrupt, and I felt like we were taking people's money, and I had to sort of be in on this scheme to keep my job.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, I definitely had to.
Was it insurance or?
It was, I don't want to say the name out loud, but it was a correspondence college, basically. And I really felt like, I was a part of the team, but I just really kind of felt like it was a scam, and it just didn't feel, it just felt icky to me.
It felt icky, not that good.
Yeah, and I really did want to help people. I did. I wanted to be of service, not just, to myself or to make myself money. I really wanted to help other people. Like, how could I help better other people? And then once I realized how well hypnosis worked on me, I knew it could work on other people too.
Sweet. So,
wait, let's do that again. There we go.
We're gonna be like, sleep. One thing I want you to briefly talk about, then we can end this, is I'm looking at the time. We're going about close to half an hour. Hypnosis, from what I've seen, has always been generally a male-dominated industry, and you could probably agree with that.
Absolutely.
What are your top 3 resources for women that want to get into hypnosis and NLP?
My top 3 resources for women specifically.
This podcast.
This podcast.
Kidding.
If you're on Facebook, I encourage you to go to Kelly Wood's group I think it's called Hypnotic Women. That's just a very good team of other women hypnotists. We support each other. We lift each other up. We can give constructive criticism without it being... what were we saying earlier?
Yeah, I don't know if we can...
Can we say that?
Yeah.
Never mind, we can't say that.
Without it being and if you're offended by words, plug your ears and give it a thumbs up. Without it being a big dick swinging contest.
It's not a dick swinging contest. So. Other than that, I've always had the notion that I can do anything a man can do. So I've never really had that mentality. My mother is a CEO of one of the largest technology companies in the South. She gets paid equal salary as them, or more, but for people in her position. So, I've always, my grandmother, she was a very strong, independent woman. Both of my grandmothers were there. So it was just, I just come from a house of strong, independent women, and I never had that mentality that I can't do something just because it's a male dominated field. Because even when I got into film and video, that was a male dominated field, and maybe I did have to prove myself a little more.
I can see that.
But the main problem is you don't get a lot of women that you can talk to.
The support group, the support network.
Right, but you do. But I did find the women online, because all the hypnotists I had been meeting before really getting online were males, were men, and
Say it again.
Were men.
Oh, I thought you. No, I'm sorry. I thought you said all the women you met that you met on. Oh, okay.
I may have messed it up.
Okay, either way.
Anyway, all the people that I met were men until I got online. Were male hypnotists.
Oh, until I actually
got online, and then I think like Wendy Friesen was one of the first female hypnotists that I met online, and she became a great mentor to me. And Kelly Woods, I consider her.
Kelly, you're awesome.
Kelly's awesome. I mean, I consider her my mentor now, and she's like my guardian angel, and I love her.
Kelly, I think was she did a Skype session for me. It was many years ago. She used a metaphor. I think it was about slaying the dragon. Awesome metaphor. Did a session. I think she was the first female hypnotist that actually hypnotized me. That was 6 years. It's probably like 7 years ago now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Kelly's awesome. Really good.
She is really awesome. She is really awesome. I love her.
Great sense of humor.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I think we're alike in so many ways, and I think that's why I was like so attracted to her and to her style, her personality. So yeah, she's a cool chick. I want to be like Kelly when I grow up.
We got hypnotic women. What else? Any other resources?
Resources for women,
or just not resources for women. Resources for anybody that wants to get hypnosis.
I would just say do what I did and just read everything you can get your hands on. Just start reading, or go to people's websites. Anybody that you consider a great hypnotist or hypnotherapist, go to their website, see what they do. They usually have products for sale, and you can order their CDs or their DVDs, and you can learn more. I mean, I'm so fascinated, and just try everything. Because even though we talked about parts therapy, that's definitely a big go-to for me. But that's not the only thing I do. I mean, I do.
Yeah, parts therapy is the only part there. It's only a part.
It's only a little part of it.
The part.
I just learn everything I can, and then I think for women, and some men too, but I think we sort of have an intuition to what technique to use. So I kind of feel like, well, if I just learn all of the techniques and then I just stay present with the client, I'll just kind of know which techniques would work best with them. So. So there may be a client that comes in that I feel like parts therapy wouldn't work for that person. And I can't really tell you how I know that. I just know it after
part of you knows
gaining that rapport with them. I just kind of feel like, well, that might not, it might be best to regress them to cause. That might be best for them. Or maybe do some EFT tapping on them or whatever. There's always some things that you can do.
Tools we
maybe
can
use metaphors with this one person, or confusion with another. So as long as you just learn everything, then you'll know what sort of clicks with you. Parts therapy is just sort of like my go-to, because I feel like it works so well for me, but that might not be true for you. So I would just say read everything you can get your hands on, watch as many videos as you can, and then definitely go through a good hypnosis school and take the live trainings, and then go to these conferences and take live trainings at the conferences as well, like HypnoThoughts Live.
HypnoThoughts Live, I'll have a little
HypnoThoughts
website
Live. We are promoting you, HypnoThoughts Live.
Scott Sandlin from HypnoThoughts, years ago, I think he created a discussion on his social media site devoted to hypnosis, hypnothoughts.com. He talked about training with everybody, training with stage hypnotists, training with people that you don't like, just to get different styles.
Oh yeah, and that's another thing too, is that I did some stage hypnosis and I did street hypnosis in the early days, just to do it, just to get used to it, to get comfortable. I mean, and I'm a natural introvert, so I have to really come out of my shell to do these things. But doing the stage hypnosis will give you such a different insight, different perspective than what you're doing in your clinical, on the clinical side of things. Actually, I became a better clinical hypnotherapist once I started learning all of the stage and the street hypnosis. So.
For me, it's giving, and I'm not making any claims, not claims, I don't have a practice right now. I got into street hypnosis mainly because I love hypnosis and for confidence.
Yes, for confidence. It's a great confidence builder.
If you can hypnotize somebody, if you can, in my opinion, if somebody's come to your office, they're already in the mindset, I want to be hypnotized. But if you can find somebody, pull them off the street and hypnotize them, they're not expecting that.
Right.
So if you can convince somebody that's not even in the mindset, if they don't even know about hypnosis, if you can do a quick pre-talk, it definitely builds up confidence.
Absolutely, and then you just have to learn how to do the rapid inductions or the instant inductions and fractionation. I actually ended up building more fractionation into my therapy sessions once I realized, like, oh, that is really, really an important component of this.
Yeah.
Who knew? So
let's see. I think we've got everything. So we covered. Covered a whole bunch. Anything? Any last words? What's your website?
My website is clearliferesults.com. There's also a shortened version, atlhypnosis.com.
The good old ATL.
atlhypnosis.com.
And if you live in Atlanta, if you're in Georgia, contact her.
Yes, please do. We'll go out to lunch or for drinks or something.
Do some shop talk.
We'll talk shop.
Thank you. This has been awesome.
Oh, thank you so much, Antonio.
Everybody, do us a favor. Share this video. Leave us a comment. Criticism.
Positive comments.
Positive comments. Or some criticism. I'm not really worried about it.
Me neither.
It was awesome.
Thank you.
Aloha, folks. So once again, I'm going to show you her bookshelf right here. Let's see if I can look at here. Let's see if I can get this in. A bunch of incredibly awesome books. Got a Roy Hunter's Reframing, which I actually got that for really cheap. Hyper Imperia, Bandler's Guide to Transformations, Mindfulness, Integrative Hypnosis with Tears, which she is awesome. Let's see what else. A bunch of Erickson Transwork. I want to get this is supposedly a really good book. One book that's actually on here that I have is The Use of Hypnotic Phenomena. I just saw it like 5 minutes ago.
Oh, you have that?
Yeah, Non-Guard's the one that told me about it. Hypnotic Realities, Instant Self-Hypnosis. I think I have that one.
Yeah, that was like one of the very first.
Man, that's the thing. I'm a
I gotta show
nerd.
them the first book.